Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for like if you would have literally seen what I just saw, it had changed my audio device to this random string of numbers and punctuation marks. It had absolutely no reason to be doing it. So I got to figure out what's going on there with their audio. But before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and just talk to just a few of y'all. So introduce. So this is Jubilee's number 6. This is a free flowing conversation where we're just gonna talk about kind of whatever's on our mind. It's not anything in particular that we're covering. So and we'll be definitely looking at chat and looking for those that would like to to add into the conversation things that's been going on that they'd like to talk about. So anyways, I'm gonna work on their sound. I'm currently working on their sound. I don't know why all of a sudden their desktop audio is not going, so please bear with me while I set that up. And all right. Perfect. Actually, I got it. I got it set up. So I'll throw it over to my brother Anthony Dickinson. Thank you again for all your patience, brother. But how you doing this fine shalom? I mean Shabbat shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, Daryl, Frank, Marsha, Vader Bear, and everybody that could join us in the chat. Anybody that wants to join us later, be welcome to also. So Shabbat shalom, everybody. And blessings to everybody, too. And congratulations.
What's a congrats for?
I'm going to let them tell you.
Okay.
Awesome. And then we got our dear brother Daryl Lee with us. How you doing this evening, sir?
Doing fine, thank you. And hope everybody else is doing fine, too. And Shabbat Shalom, and happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you always. And we got our dear brother Frankie B. How you doing this evening, sir?
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Doing good. Hey, Daryl, I got a question for you. Did you ever change strings on a Bixby? You know what a Bixby? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Bixby, no.
Oh, it's a pain in the butt. I got a Gretsch, a beautiful Cadillac.
Is that where you got to go through the back of the guitar to change the strings?
You got to wrap it around on this little pin. You got to use pliers to bend the string. It's my project tonight while we are communicating conspiracy theories and other things. I hope everyone had a great week and a great Shabbat today. Me and Nick are gearing up for a show we're going to be doing Friday. We're going to be doing an open mic night, so I got to change the strings on the guitar.
Nice.
That's what I'm up to.
Nice. Always love y'all working on more music because not only do we get to hear it and share it with everyone, but I know y'all have fun doing it. So
we can get some good video out of it, and I'll be able to put some more stuff up on the YouTube page.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take my amp this time so that I got a better sound.
Nice. Well, sweet. Well, thanks for being here again, and we have our dear sister Marsha. How you doing this evening, sister?
I'm doing well, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Marsha.
Sweet. So now that we all got sound, kind of to rehash that, this is a thing that we're just gonna have a free flowing conversation. We're gonna read chat, see what kind of conversations come from there. So it's way more relaxing because there isn't something we have to do. It's something we want to do. So everyone get pumped up for that. And then just a little homekeeping. We are 1 away from being 50 away from being at 500. But as my lovely wife shared, it's at 50% of the votes for a shofar. So if y'all are wanting a shofar, make sure you're subscribing and leaving a comment in one of the videos. And at the end of this video, like we always do, we're going to be, reading those comments out. And then that qualifies you as well for, winning that shofar with the sub. So, yeah, and it's going to be a real high quality, nice shofar, something that you'll put on your mantle, your cover, or, in a nice satin covering. But anyways, so make sure to do that, and then all as always, the link in the description for the Discord is down there. So if you want to join in the conversation in the live stream, Jubilees is time to do it. Even if it's jump on and ask a question because maybe we missed your question in the chat. If you need help, there are people that can kind of help you get set up for that. If you join, so just at someone and they'll be able to help you, like the moderators. But anyways, so let's kind of get into it. Not anything we got to do again, but something we're gonna do. Anyone got anything like burning a pocket, and they kind of want to spend it or share it?
I got a bit.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I just got a real quick announcement before we get into anything. If anybody was wondering, Rob Skiba's channel is doing the virtual house church again on every Saturday at 2 p.m. Central. If anybody looking for a good Torah portion, they'll be doing that every Saturday now. But anyway, just that announcement.
Sweet, yeah, that's awesome. I joined there today. It was definitely great, and he has a great accent. I think my wife likes his Spanish voice too. But yeah, he's awesome. Light of the Nations, check him out as well. But Frankie B, you were gonna say something. What was burning your ear?
Yeah, I found a new channel. It's called Australian Tartaria, and they talk about Tartarian technology and things that went on in our prehistory. They got a real good video on airships and Zeppelins, and how the Eiffel Tower and the Empire State Building were power stations for the Zeppelins, where they would actually dock there, let people on and off while they powered up with some type of electromagnetic technology, frequency, or
Well, to be honest, it could be as simple as them just, having a line to fill the fuel. I'm not necessarily sure about that. It is interesting that they made those buildings in such a way where they can, take in energy from the atmosphere plane. Who knows how those work? They obviously got rid of them, and maybe it was a mixture of both. Maybe they needed some fuel, but they also needed that electricity, and that's the way they charged it. I was even thinking about elevators and how that was a big thing, like being able to carry people up quickly to the top and to the bottom, and it kind of gets it out of the way, and that it's way more of a safer takeoff, right, than an airplane. Much less space needed. It's not as fast, but
yeah, it was like a 2-day trip to Europe, but it was like a floating hotel. They had actual rooms with beds in them on the inside of them, a full kitchen with staff.
Oh man, that sounds good.
They were actually like cruise ships in the air. The video I watched was really, really.
And I think one of the reasons they got rid of aircrafts is because if we would have put time and technology into them like we did, let's say airplanes or or air rockets, then we would literally be able to freely explore the outside edge, right? Because if you're up out of the kind of the elements where you can, if a storm comes in, you can just fly up and wait for the storm to go past and then fly back down. Like, that's infinitely better than having to fly super fast and deal with the wind and you get what I mean? So
Yeah,
they got rid of that technology because how much we could uh explore with it. But
Well, they want to control us, so
well, it
and
wasn't
want money.
petroleum based either. They went to a whole petroleum based system because they lined their pockets with money, with the gas, with the natural gas, the oil, coal. They made billions and trillions of dollars since.
Yeah, I don't think money at the very, very, very top means anything. I think they just like playing games on a chessboard.
I think they're just playing Monopoly with real people. That's what I think.
yeah, Risk, Monopoly, all those games kind of in one instead of, separate.
It's chess.
So I found this interesting thing out about trees. Now, um, specifically with seed bearing trees. So, for instance, I don't know if y'all know this, but you would kind of think that, okay, if you took an apple tree, if you took an apple from an apple tree and you ate from that apple and it was nice and sweet, you could take those seeds and bury it and grow another apple tree, right? That would have nice, good fruit. But only 1 in 80,000 variants of when you actually plant those seeds will you actually get fruit that tastes good.
Say that again. That last part.
So, like, for instance, what's referred to as crab apples are those specimens, are apple trees, but their apples just don't taste good. Their variant does not taste good. And so if you take the seeds from a apple tree that tastes good and plant them, you have 1 in 80,000 chance of getting a tree that tastes good.
Wow.
Now, the way that they get around this is that's where grafting comes in. But there are true seeds such as peach trees that if you take a peach tree seed and you plant it and you grow it, it will be nice and sweet. And there are a handful of true seed like Metro talked about that will give you that exact type. But then you have the non-true seeds, which you'll get that variation, and that's where grafting comes into place, because they will take a small cut of a good producing tree, and they'll put it on a tree that doesn't produce. Now, what's really interesting to me is that kind of seem like anti like instructions of the father, because you're making a bad tree produce good fruit, or is that statement like a good tree cannot produce good fruit, that grafting
Well, it's
process, is he talking about true seed fruit, or is he
you
you
know,
kind of get what I'm saying?
yeah. The father said each plant will have a seed of its own kind, and now we're so used to breeding animals, trees, whatever, fruit. I think it's all messed up. I don't think we were ever supposed to do all that stuff.
I don't necessarily I think there's beauty in the variation of hybridization. Like, if you take like a tree that produces this type of fruit and this type of fruit, and it's the same, it's an apple tree and it's an apple tree, and you pollinate them. Like, I don't think there's necessarily or if you take dogs, right? We have all these breeds of dogs. I don't necessarily think that is bad. What I think is bad is when you take, two things that aren't the same and mix them. Like, if you were to take a cutting off of a apple tree and graft it onto an orange tree, as an example.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
not mixing it that way. But I don't know, it's just so interesting to me that they can take the branches off of the good tree, put it on the trunk of the tree that would by itself produce bad fruit, and then the tree produces good fruit. So it's pretty interesting.
I have a tree that it's a lacy leaf maple that they take it from a certain type of tree and they put this grafting on it to make it this certain type of tree, and it only grows like a bush instead of a tree. It's that they've been doing that kind of stuff for a while. But I don't know about the fruit.
Yeah, well, we know they gave us knowledge of the plants way back, during the time of Enoch. But so they've kind of had this information and known about this stuff, and think about the difference of how things used to work. Let's just say 50 years ago, where most tradesmen, they didn't go to some school that learned on a computer that read it. They had to be with that guy that learned it from his master, that learned it from his master, where it was like this intimate relationship, where now it's like you're just a number in a school.
Yeah, so, they were hands-on.
Yeah, exactly. Hands-on. And it was like their livelihood, and that mentor basically, when he took him on, like he fed him and gave him a place to sleep and taught, and then taught him, and then that apprentice would do all the grueling work, picking up the heavy stuff and moving, and cleaning and all the stuff that he did when he was an apprentice. But we've kind of lost that. So I think we've also learned a lot of things, like my wife's talking about bread. I see her talking about bread like that. Like just a handful of generations ago, our forefathers, our foremothers made their own bread. They had their own wheat. They went and bought the wheat and milled it and made their own bread at home. But now we just buy our own, we buy our store-bought bread, and we're trying to change that. And shout out to Sean for sharing that with us, I should say. But yeah, so I just, the things that we lose is so easy, definitely with the internet and the phones, right? Because like with the internet and phones, it's like a lot of the times you don't even have to remember how to spell something. You can just click the auto checker. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't even remember my sister's phone number. I just press a button.
Yeah, but 20 years ago, you remembered everyone's phone number by heart.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Anyway, sorry, that was a big tangent. Anyone?
Doesn't mean we were any smarter, right, Marcia?
What?
I said it doesn't mean we were any smarter.
Nope.
Hey,
well,
Frank.
I think we have been dumbed down. I don't know.
Hey, Frank, can y'all hear me right quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank, about your finding on what happened in Australia, or what they found in Australia, whatever it was, the Tartarian stuff or whatever. Did you happen to check out, or were you there whenever I covered what had happened during the time of the destruction of the Tower of Babel, how all those cities were built, and then the tower was built, and then when it was destroyed, the way it was destroyed could have caused the what a lot of people call the Tartarian Great Reset. Did you ever look into that any?
What, the mud flood?
That's what it sounds like, mud flood.
I'm not talking about looking into the mud flood. I'm asking if you looked into what I had said about the mud flood, Tartarian reset.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What did you say again?
He was talking about how it says that a third part of the Tower of Babel sank into the earth. So if that liquefaction was happening with such a huge building, then wasn't it also happening around the world? And so that maybe takes away it doesn't, like, we know that our history's been messed with. possibly our years. We definitely know with the Gregorian calendar we lose X amount of days over 8 years. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. But anyway, sorry. That's basically what he was talking about. And you can kind of correct me if I was wrong, Anthony.
That was pretty much, yeah. I was just wondering if Frank had heard what, you know, my take on what had all happened. What I knew you had looked into the mud flood stuff a good bit, and I wanted you to compare what I was saying about it kind of with what you know about it with the mud floods and the Tartarian and stuff like that.
I mean, it could be post-flood buildings. There's a possibility of that, but
Well, even they don't deny that though.
I'm not really sure. I just know it's really interesting, and I know it's well, what Austin calls it. The reason they call themselves Freemason is because they inherited all those Tartarian buildings, and they claimed them for their own use.
I think because they already knew they were there, but they weren't strong enough, I guess, to actually get to where they needed to be to take them, to take them over or whatever they did.
Well, they took them over because they turned them all into either municipal buildings, churches, libraries,
Post offices.
post offices, government buildings, library. There's a huge library in. Well, I've just seen it on Twitter. I think it's in South America somewhere. I'm not sure if I saved the picture on my phone or not, but it is gorgeous. Like 4 stories of all books. Let me see if I saved it on my picture.
I probably wouldn't see the picture, but it doesn't surprise me a bit, to be honest. But I'm just saying, I think the timeline, what they're telling, what a lot of people are saying about it is being some sort of a great reset post flood. I disagree with that. It's except for the quote unquote great reset at the time of the destruction of the Tower of Babel and when all the languages got misscrewed. I think those were built even before the Tower of Babel, and they were basically abandoned when that event took.
Well, there's a lot of suspect about orphan trains, about child slave labor in the before the 1800s, or in the beginning of the 1800s, how they started to repopulate the realm with orphans. They just put them on trains, put them all across the United States and Europe. So, and there was more orphans than there was regular, you know, like people that knew their heritage. So our heritage could be even, we might be a product of the orphans or the orphan trains or the orphan movement, because it was huge in the early 80s. There's plenty of pictures of children working in sweatshop in factories and all across the realm.
I've seen them; they make me sick.
Coal mines.
Coal mine, yeah,
All
everywhere.
Even sicker is that's exactly what's going on right here today. Right
There's nothing new under the sun. They just keep doing the same stuff over and over again.
They've been doing it.
I apologize for interrupting. I just saw that Chris has jumped in. I want to say welcome, brother. Hope you're doing good. How are you? If you don't want to say hi to everyone.
Doing good, thanks you. Peace.
Thanks for nice. Well, thanks for joining us.
Shabbat shalom, Chris.
Anyone got including you as well, Chris? You got any things y'all want to talk about? Oh, it looks like we got North Star joining us as well. How you doing? Shabbat shalom, brother.
Bye.
Great to see everyone here.
Well, appreciate you joining us. It's just to kind of explain what we're doing, what Jubilee is for us. We do every seventh like stream we do a Jubilee where it's like not any in particular thing, like it's not a labeled episode. It's just anything that anyone kind of wants to talk about. But yeah, so if you have anything kind of relevant in the world or in your life or in scripture, whatever it is, anyone, obviously feel free to share it. And then again, I'm reading chat, and people that are bringing up topics, I will definitely shout them out. So with that kind of being said, anyone got anything they kind of want to talk about?
Yeah, I just heard someone mention the Tower of Babel, and speaking of Babylon, there's been a lot of talk about Babylon. There's been a lot said in the prophets about Babylon. So there is one thing I would like to point out. It's in Jeremiah chapter 51, and you could probably turn to it. Jeremiah 51. I'll start in verse 61, and I'll end in 64. And Jeremiah said to Sarah, when thou comest to Babylon, and shalt see, and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, Yah, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind it to a stone, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. So I think it's very important to understand what he's doing there. It's not that so it would be covered up by the water and no one would see it. In fact, when we come to Revelation, we'll find out that the great river Euphrates is dried up right before the proclamation the proclamation against Babylon is to take place.
Nice. I personally, well, I think he's referring to, is that in, what was that in, Anthony? Was that in the, I don't remember what book that was in, where you got that from. Do you remember?
Which part of?
Where it talks about a third of it sinking, a third of it being destroyed by fire, and then a third of it falling to the ground, and then it took 3 days to travel around the remnants of it.
Right.
What was that? Was that Jubilees?
Yeah. Can you hear me? One of them is Jubilees. One of them is Joshua. One of them is like either the Antiquities of the Jews or the Legends of the Jews. One or the other. There were some Native American transcripts and depictions and everything of pretty much the same thing. But I forget all the books that I was reading out of. I can't remember them all right off. I got notes somewhere I can look up pretty quick though. Easy.
I would, for sure, I would definitely say that like the final, like the Mystery Babylon the Great, like I think that is like kind of what they're trying to do with the Georgia Guidestones. Like that's kind of their idea of like ruling the world with one nation. And I think that kind of, me personally, contributes to Revelation 9 with the locusts, because if at least in my mind, when the world sees that, they're going to describe that as an asteroid and then aliens and then an alien invasion, and the whole world kind of coming together to combat that, and then preparing for the extra bad aliens, which is going to be, Yeshua coming back to put his kingdom down, in my beliefs. Any thoughts about that, or additions or conjectures?
When we read as I was just reading that Jeremiah chapter 51, speaking of the great river Euphrates and all the words that are spoken against Babylon, tie a stone upon it, throw it into the midst of Euphrates. When we get into the trumpets and the vials, you'll see at the sixth trumpet, the four angels are loose that are bound at the great river Euphrates. And then what you'll see is the sixth vial, the great river Euphrates is dried up. And this is where the war with Yah begins. So this would be where Armageddon is coming into place. And so at the very end of that seventh vial, you'll see that the wine cup of wrath is poured out upon Babylon. And to understand like the chronological order, we go back to Jeremiah and we can see that the wine cup of his wrath, if we go to Jeremiah 25 and we read from verses 15 through 26, we'll see that Babylon drinks the cup first, and then Egypt, and then all the nations, or Babylon or Jerusalem drinks first, all the cities thereof and surrounding it, then Egypt, and then it goes, chronological order. And then when you get to verse 26, after you come to all the nations of the earth, you get to Babylon. And Babylon, it says, drinks after them all. So at the very end. So when you come into Revelation and you see that Babylon comes into remembrance before him, and this is at the very end, at the seventh vial. If we go back to another prophet who speaks about Babylon, we can go to Zechariah, and it's chapter 5, and it's in the very end of the chapter. And if anyone remembers that, what it says, I think it is, he sees an ephah going forth. An ephah is a measurement. And it said about the ephah that this is the likeness thereof of all the nations of the earth. And he asks, where is the ephah going? Where do these bear the ephah? It's taken between heaven and earth. And the angel that talked with him said, it's being taken to the land of Shinar, which is Babylon, to be firmly established upon her own base. And this ephah, this woman who was in the midst of the ephah, was wickedness. So Babylon will have a very important role. The actual specific place, Babylon, will have a very important role. In fact, in Jeremiah chapter 50 and 51 and Isaiah chapter 13 and 14, there are prophecies there that have never happened in Babylon, but they're going to happen. And this is what Jeremiah was speaking about in chapter 51 when he said, you're going to throw all these sayings against Babylon, this land, into the midst of the Euphrates. And then at the very end, the Euphrates is dried up and Babylon gets the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath.
Yeah, I and I'm not disagreeing. Yeah, actually, I think that you're kind of stating it. So the Babylon itself, we're specifically talking about the Tower of Babel, but Babylon has totally been a spiritual place. I can't remember the scripture off the top of my head, but where it talks about like the spirit like flying away and going to another place, and I think this place moves, and that's why we see those different places it's talking about. It's because those societies take up the mantle and the practices to the highest and behavior to the nth degree, and so that's reflected in their society and the things that have happened. So yeah, I think there may have been confusion there, because do people think that the
I'm not disagreeing either. I think it goes exactly along the lines of what I was getting at in the whole presentation that I had made about it.
You mean about the Tower of Babel?
Well, that being where the preterists get the Great Reset from. I'm saying that the Bible disproves their claim. By the presentation I had, I was wondering if Frank had seen that, because
He kind of wanted to see if there was any rebuttal, what those rebuttals would be.
right, and I don't necessarily see what North Star was saying there as a rebuttal exactly. I think it just is more to that. It's more to what I actually had said up to that point. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, North Star, for sharing that with me.
Yeah, the one thing I would like to just point out, and yeah, I wasn't, rebuttaling what you had to say. I was just kind of speaking on Babylon. I just came in the room and I heard you guys speaking on it. One thing I would like to point out is we have some prophecies in Isaiah and Jeremiah and a few other places that never historically happened. They've never been recorded, and it's not hard to understand that it's never happened. For instance, if you turn to Isaiah chapter 13, and all these chapters, you're speaking about the land Babylon. When you get into Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51, it's the proclamation against the land. So it's not like, just the people or just a metaphor. It's the land. So if you go to Isaiah chapter 13, and what you'll see is it shall never be inhabited. I'm in verse 20, and I could start a few, verses earlier, but speaking of Babylon, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelled in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But the wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and the houses shall be full of doleful creatures. And owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dwell there, and dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. Now we do get a picture of that when we turn to Revelation 18 also. Speaks of the unclean creatures, the owls, and all these things dwelling in it. No longer will there be heard a bridegroom in thee, but it'll be desolate forever. And that's a specific place. And it's saved until the very end. It's very important to understand that at the very end, when Babylon comes into remembrance, to pour out it, to give it the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath, to pour it out completely. And so these words that were said in Jeremiah and Isaiah and Zechariah are yet to be fulfilled, because there's still people living there. It's a tourist attraction right now. So the Arabian still pitched it. It's not that no man dwells there right now, currently. So what we have is something that's going to happen in the very end. And it's very important to understand that those proclamations that were written against that land specifically is to be uncovered, because the waters will be dried up and those proclamations will be clear to everyone, right? Right before he pours the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath out completely. And that would be Revelation 16 at the very end, at the seventh vial.
Very interesting to me.
Yeah, that is super interesting, and I've always kind of thought about like Dubai, and how that pretty much sprung up from nowhere. Now, I'm not contributing that to being Babylon, though. It is like, I think the final Babylon is going to be like the first Babel, like it's going to be that one world empire, because we haven't had that. Like, I believe that pre-flood, the angels and whatever, minus their fighting, they had a hierarchy and nations and kings and all that stuff. And but there was a one, like a hierarchy to a king. And then we have the flood, and then after the flood, that accumulates with Nimrod being the all-powerful with the Tower of Babel. Then you have the Tower of Babel, the separation of the tribes, all going back to their lands, and then we're up to here now where we've gone through multiple world wars to kind of establish what countries and what borders. But I really do go back to when Reagan said, I wonder how quickly our differences would change if we were met by a threat from outside this world. I know I didn't quote him perfectly, but I just think about how we got the movies like Independence Day, where you literally have all the worlds coming together to unite. And then those that have, spoiler alert, have seen the second one, it is now a full on, world, one world where there's one president. There's, so yeah. Anyways, I think that
Hey,
is a big indicator personally of end times.
might I bring up some context for the Isaiah 13 that was just read? Can we look at Isaiah 34 real quick, which is a similar prophecy to Babylon being taken out? It's actually about the Edomite Empire in Isaiah 34. And if you'll start, around verse 5 or 6, it's really talking about this destruction, and it's going down. And oh yeah, right here in verse 9, he's talking about Edom here. It says, its streams will be turned into pitch, and its loose earth into brimstone, and its land will become burning pitch. It will not be quenched night or day. Its smoke will go up forever. From generation to generation, it will be desolate. None will pass through it forever and ever. But pelican and hedgehog will possess it, and owl and raven will dwell in it, and he will stretch over it the line of desolation, the plumb line of emptiness. So it's just interesting to me to read this very similar prophecy, which talks about an area burning forever and ever. The smoke will go up forever. But then in the next verse, we have pelicans and hedgehogs inhabiting the land, which I guess they can somehow survive fire. We got fireproof animals in there. So I think it's more indicative of the very poetic and hyperbolic writing style of the Hebrew prophets of that time. And I wouldn't necessarily take that prophecy to the letter, like when you would read back in Isaiah 13 about Babylon being destroyed and no one will possess it ever again, because we see that in this parallel prophecy that yes, animals do possess that land, even though just a verse before it's saying it's in perpetual fire. So yeah, I just, that for me, that draws into question saying, well, we haven't seen this yet, because we're taking it literal to the letter.
I would say that, in Isaiah 66:24, in the millennial reign, when they're going to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles and all these things, and they go to worship in Jerusalem, that after they worship, in verse 24 of chapter 66 of Isaiah, they go and look upon the dead carcasses of men who transgressed against God. And that's where the fire dieth not, or the fire is not quenched, and the worm dieth not. Now, you can have a trash heap, and you can have fire going on, you can have worms right up under it. It's not like the whole place is an incinerator, and that everything that is close to it is going to just get incinerated. You'll actually have animals around, and that's not uncommon to have animals around fire and around filth and garbage and things like that, and those be unclean animals. Now, when we go back to Isaiah 13, if we read a little bit before, we would see it's the Lord's day of judgment, and that he has a controversy with all the nations and all the earth. And this is speaking of his judgment day. And so, again, when we went back to Jeremiah and we read the chronological order of the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath, Jerusalem comes first, all the surrounding cities, Egypt, Then a bunch of other cities are named, and all the nations of the earth. And then Shishak, which is Babylon, drinks last, which is what you get a picture of in Revelation. So
So when y'all were saying that, it actually made me think of something, and I want to kind of share this with y'all. Maybe y'all have seen this before, but if not, I want to share it. But and
I agree with North Star's interpretation of it because I mean I've seen just too much other stuff that falls right along in line with it for it to ever not be.
Right. And what
say it.
about Revelation chapter 11, where it says in
As,
verse 8, it says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified." Now, if that would be a future prophecy, would this be some recreated city where our Lord was crucified?
this shouldn't
I
get
don't
to
understand.
the debate. I was just wondering
I'm just
what.
asking a question.
Okay, I'm just saying, we shouldn't get into a debate about it.
so when y'all were describing this is like I was thinking about kind of how that could be realistic or what that would look at, and so there's this thing. It's called the jar. Let me pull up this one. It's called the Darvaza gas crater. And so this is something that is like in the middle of the desert in the Middle East, and it's literally always on fire. And so this is how something in my eyes could happen, and definitely Middle East, lots of oil there. If something were to happen where it would basically catch on fire, it could concave like that, and this could be a much bigger thing in that description. So that being said, you could still have, let's say, a whole bunch of these and still have these areas, though these buildings aren't inhabited anymore other than animals, and that kind of still be a thing. So just kind of some food for thought, an image that popped in my head when I heard y'all read those scriptures.
Yeah, anytime something is, deemed poetic or, it's a metaphor or anything like that, when you have, 2 or 3 prophets saying, more than 16 times in different ways to you that no son of man, no nephew, no Arab will pitch tent, no domesticated animal will dwell there forever, for generation to generation. And, you have no bridegroom will be heard in thee, no musician, no harpers. When you have these things, and that it'll just be like a burnt place, like a burnt mountain. These things, if you're going to make them poetic, kind of tell me what they mean. And once you get into redefining words, when you redefine words like from generation to generation and forever, what does this mean to us now? Is there no everlasting life? What does everlasting mean? Is that just poetic? So we get into a lot of different things here. But it's very important to look at each prophet and see if these prophecies have come true. If they've not become true, then the prophets are liars. If the thing has already happened, and I still see men dwelling there, right? I see it as a tourist attraction, then it's obviously not happened yet. And then when I come to the end and he speaks of the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath being poured out, and he has a controversy with all the nations of the earth, not just Jerusalem, not just Babylon, but all the nations of the earth. And Babylon just so happens to drink last because he's going to save the best for last, and he's going to do it in front of everyone. And yeah, it fell a long time ago, but it was turned into a capital. So did it really fall in the way that the prophet said? can we rely on the prophets? And you know, uh, I don't understand what we're doing there.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
can
well,
rely
I
on
would
the.
just say,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I would just say we would put them in the proper context of the style of writing they're working with. And it's not a lie if I say, oh my gosh, I was dying to get done work last night, and then you see me walking around alive the next day. Am I a liar, or am I speaking in a very common uh, uh, expressive way that's just common to the culture and the idioms? So no, I wouldn't. I don't. I think it's a false premise to say, oh well, these prophets were liars when this didn't come true to the letter, but instead
I
just
don't think
compare
it's
the
like,
prophets to themselves. This is just my opinion. This is my view based on looking at it for a while now. So yeah, that's my take. Yeah, and I'd like to talk about Psalm 18, where just talks about.
because
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
I said I was wanting to hear about jubilees.
Well, it's a Jubilee show, so aren't we just we're fully free flowing, or is there a specific topic you wanted to do?
Well, they also used a lot of hyperbole in their text too, where they would make something grander than it is to keep the reader's interest. Like,
But all sorts of cultures, though, all sorts of cultures around the world.
sure, there's a lot of hyperbole in older documents where they would elaborate it to be this great and glorious thing where they would use adjectives and uh, words that would emphasize it to catch the reader's interest to show how glorious it was. So, and it's all through the Hebraic writings. Hyperbole was a big thing.
Yeah. Just like the number 1,000 is a distinct symbolic number for completion and perfection. It's like is God the owner of all the cattle on 1,000 hills?
Well, and
No,
so
he's the owner of all of the hills. They just use that word 1,000, and then that gets into the millennial reign. Was
well,
it talking about a literal 1,000-year reign or a perfect and complete reign?
so
Because
like I'll
Vader,
give you an
okay, go ahead.
example of with like with Adam and why he died, because he didn't have the completion of his days. And none of us have the completion of our days because sin was introduced into the world. So that's why we die, because we don't get to complete that fullness of our life. And that's the point of the second the resurrection is or blessed are those who take part of the first resurrection, because they will get to be here and have that fullness and do greater things than Yeshua did, for the nations. Obviously, this is my view, but I think that poetic of 1,000 years is a literal thing as well. I'm not taking away that it can be that 1,000 can be used poetically, but it is 1,000 years is a completion of would have been a completion of his full life, and we see that no one lives 1,000 years. They're all shy of 1,000.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just really quick wanted to highlight Psalm 18, which is the famous account of David talking about being pursued by Saul. And if you look at that psalm, like the way it's written, he says, "The cords of Sheol surrounded me, the snares of death confronted me." The further down, verse 7, he says, "The earth shook and quaked. The foundations of the mountains were trembling and were shaken because he was angry. Smoke went up out of his nostrils and fire from his mouth devoured. Coals were kindled by it." This in my view, from looking at the prophecies, this is just germane to the very hyperbolic and poetic style of prophetic writing, and that just has to be taken into account in its proper context
So
when
I have a
interpreting
question
these
for you. In the
prophecies.
same way, do you believe that all the plagues were hyperbolic, symbolic things?
In that case, like similar to the synoptic gospels, I would say no. I think that was describing by and large literal events, like
So, and
you
I
know.
and I think the same way you're describing this and saying, "Oh, this is metaphorical," but I think very literally smoke could have came out of his nostrils and fire could have came out of his mouth. And if fire came out of his mouth that devoured, meaning it caused fires on earth, then literally you could have used that fire to kindle your coals, to use that fire to start your coals to give you uh, whatever, literal use of coals to cook or for heat. So to me, just because it sounds extravagant doesn't mean it's not real. And I think one of the things that lends us to do that, and it's to be honest, it's kind of like a globe-minded thing, like why would they lie to us kind of thing, because we have been conditioned that mythology, that these extravagant things aren't real, and that it's all of it can be summed up to, like for instance, there's hand groups of people with the 10 plagues that will literally tell you what physically happened in order for those things to happen, why it turned into blood, and why all the locusts came, and why the frogs came, etc., etc., etc. They have a literal physical way of how those things could have happened, and then it just be described as this godly thing. So I don't know. I'm not taking away from the spiritual aspect of it to say that there isn't spiritual implications to these words, but I think these words can also be literal, and I think they can be one and the same. But my mind, definitely from transitioning, uh, looking at Genesis 1, and believing a globe, to now reading Genesis 1 and taking the word, the Father's word, as is, I tend to lean more to it being literal unless it's describing it with likes or ases, right? So it's not saying, the earth shook and trembled like a blah blah blah. It's saying it actually happened. The fountains also, the hills moved and were shaken because of his wrath. I could totally see how he could move the earth where it would cause hills to be moved. So that's my point. I think these things could totally be literal, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, but what about to the extent of like the stars falling out of the sky? Like,
Totally.
but as far as like past events, like again, like
T-
with that Psalm 18, it says he bowed the heavens also and came down with thick darkness under his feet. I mean, it just seems, in my view, and again, like I agree, like that, like the accounts of the gospels, like those are real things that happened, like real healings, real resurrection with Jesus, like real people got resurrected and walked around Jerusalem when Jesus got resurrected. I mean, that's something that I think is real. But I think within certain contexts of the prophetic writings, it's not to be taken literal to the letter, necessarily. That's my view.
If you have literal and figurative all throughout the scripture, yet the scripture is inspired by Yah, right? It's inspired by the Father, by the Creator. So it's not just the way these men wanted to write it. Now they do have their own opinion in some places, and they put it in, but it's well known they're speaking for themselves, right? They're not speaking for Yah. But when you come to things that are figurative or symbolic, the text tells you it's symbolic. We could go to Isaiah. We were just in Isaiah 13, and we were speaking multiple times of, no man shall dwell there forever. Not Arabian, not a son of man, not a nephew, no domesticated animal, only unclean animals. And we get that same picture in Revelation. Now, when we're in Isaiah and the same prophet, we see that the wolf shall lie down right? With the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf, the young lion, fatling together, and a child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together. The lion shall eat the straw like the ox, the suckling child will play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy on all my holy mountain, and the earth will be full of the knowledge of Yah. Okay, so what is all those things figurative for? And if a person, tells you that everything is poetic, everything is figurative, if you can't tell me what each thing is figurative or poetic for, and you can't just write another book and give it to me in plain terms, right? So I'm not confused. That would be great.
Hey, I got a question, North Star. Hold on. North Star, have you ever had a vision or a dream that had all kinds of imagery in it, like a vision from God or a dream from God? Because that's what most of the prophecies are. They're visions and dreams that they got in the spirit. And I have another question for you after that. Do you feel that Nimrod will resurrect and be the Antichrist?
When you say, in the spirit, which is where we get the word inspired, it's in the spirit. It's the same thing. I don't really know where you were going with that, but
Well, have you
speaking
ever had a vision or a dream?
yeah, I've had one. Yeah, I've had a vision.
But you had to pray to God for the interpretation, pray to Yah for the interpretation.
Hey, sorry to interrupt real quick, but Frankie, you need to mute yourself when you ask him a question because then we're getting a lot of echo on your side. But anyways, go on, gentlemen.
I thought that was from North Star.
Yeah, I've had a vision, and in a vision, it's kind of like it's described in the New Testament. You don't know if you're in the body, out of the body. You actually feel like you're there. Then you could get into dreams and visions and what's the difference, but it's all in the spirit, right? And the only thing that's going to reveal that to you, what that means, the spirit of man knows nothing, only the spirit of Yah. And he is the revealer of the secrets, right? So you look unto him for the interpretation of all things. So if we're going to look unto him for the interpretation of all things, and all the word is inspired by him, then we look to the word. Now the word is figurative and it's literal in many places, but he's not the author of confusion. And so when he gives you something that's symbolic, just like we see in many, many books in the Bible, in your scriptures, that it's going to tell you it's symbolic, right? And it's just it's so disheartening to see. I hear so many answers from people when they hear things like, he spoke in parables so the people would understand. And I say, no, he spoke in parables so they would not understand, because they had ears that wouldn't hear and eyes that wouldn't see.
And
this is why he spoke. He didn't actually speak to the fishermen about fishing to get them to understand. There were some people that stood by that did understand, but it was the spirit of Yah that revealed that to that person. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different things to look at there. But when you're speaking figurative or literal, you need to go to each text, and then you're going to have to take the whole text into context and into account when you're doing your study. You just can't jump from one place to the other. If we're going to talk about, the land, specifically Babylon, we're going to speak about every prophecy that's written against it, because that's what I started talking about. Everything that's written against that land is laying at the bottom of the Euphrates right now. Right now as we speak, it's laying there, because I don't know of anybody who's got it, do you? So it's tied to a stone, and it's laying at the bottom of the river Euphrates. Now that river Euphrates is going to dry up completely, and Armageddon is coming. And then the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath will be poured out upon Babylon, which he has kept in remembrance. And he'll do it in front of everyone. And these things that you see written in these prophets will happen. And if it's a metaphor, I would like to know, what words would you put in place of each entire word? There's hundreds. It's not going to be a 5-minute discussion or a 10-minute or a 30-minute or an hour and a half. It's going to be weeks.
Well, and with me, I would lead with saying, I know when what's being prophesied happened. I may not know every jot and tittle, like every detail of what that prophecy meant. Like I can't say I know in my study who the Antichrist was, or the man of lawlessness was. But I, in my opinion, know when he was, and I can, elaborate on that based on on the Gospels and the prophecies and when they said certain things would happen.
Let me give you an example. So when Messiah was he was reading from the scroll of Isaiah, right? And it's very interesting because what we have here is we have just a few verses, and he closes the scroll. He closes the book and hands it back. And he said, this is fulfilled before your eyes. So it's very important to know what he was reading, because if he would have continued reading, the day of vengeance would have came right then. So if you turn to Isaiah 61 and you start in the very beginning, the Spirit of Yah is upon me, because Yah has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. Verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yah. And he closed the book. However, the rest of verse 2 says, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. Verse 3, to appoint unto them that mourn in Mount Zion. And it goes on and on and on. So he only was here to do verse 1 and half of verse 2. The day of vengeance has not come yet. So when we speak of the day of vengeance and we speak of the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath being poured out upon all the nations, not just Jerusalem 70 AD, not just Babylon falling, not just that, all the nations of the earth. And I take you back to Jeremiah 25. Go to verse 15 through verse 26. It gives you the chronological order in which the wine cup has already been given out. He tells Jeremiah, give it to him to drink. Go to Jerusalem first, the surrounding cities next, Egypt next. And then he goes on and he tells him other places. Then he says, all the nations of the earth and Shishak or Babylon shall drink after them. When we come in Revelation, it's the same thing. It's the same chronological order. You go to Revelation 16, it's the same wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath. It's been drank and it's been gulped down for all these years, but there is going to be a climax. It's going to come to an head. It's going to be literally poured out completely.
Where in Revelation 16 is that same order you described that out of Isaiah? North Star, where in Revelation 16, if I heard you right, you're saying it was the same order that was described in Isaiah? All right, well, let's come back to that. If I don't know if he's still with us, but
It was Isaiah. I think he said it was Jeremiah.
okay. I just don't see the same order in Revelation 16.
You're talking about Jeremiah 25? So
Right,
if
and
you
then
go
you said,
yeah, I'll take you to Revelation 16 right after Jeremiah, okay? So in Jeremiah chapter 25, if you're already there, could you start in verse 15? And if you're not there, I'll turn to it.
yeah, go ahead, read it out.
All right, so I'll turn to it. And what I'm going to get at here is that Jerusalem drinks first and all the nations after. And then you have Babylon drinking at the very end. And so I'll be in Jeremiah chapter 25. I'll start in let me start in verse 14 because it's still speaking of Babylon. So, for many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also. This is speaking after the 70 years in Babylon. So this is speaking about future after that. For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their own hands. Verse 15. For thus saith Yah of Israel unto me, take the wine cup of the fury at my hand, and cause all the nations to whom I send thee to drink it. And they shall drink it, and be moved, and be mad, because of the sword I will send among them. And this has been going on for a long time. Then I took the cup of Yah's hand, and made all the nations to drink unto whom he had sent me, to wit, Jerusalem, and the cities of Judah, and the kings thereof, and the princes thereof, to make them a desolation, and an astonishment, and a hissing, and a curse, as it is this day. So to see that he clearly gave it to him right then, right? Then he says, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he goes on and on about the mingled people, the people of the land of Uz, Philistines, Ashkelon, Azar, Ekron, Edom, Moab. He goes through a long list, okay? Then he says in verse 26, and all the nations, kings of the north, far and near, one with another, all the kingdoms of the world, which are upon the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak shall drink after them. Now, when you see the word Shishak in the scripture, that's Babylon. When you see the word Shinar, that's Babylon. So now I'm going to relate it to Revelation 16, okay? So I'm going to turn over to Revelation 16. And we just seen Jerusalem was first, the nations were after Jerusalem, and Shishak or Babylon drank last. So we're going to go to Revelation 16. We're going to turn down to verse 19. Is everyone still with me?
Still here. Yeah.
Okay. So verse 19. And the great city was divided into three parts. What city do you think that was?
I think it was
That's
Jerusalem of old, but that's just me.
exactly. Okay, so it's Jerusalem. I'll give you that. It's Jerusalem. And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell after Jerusalem, and great Babylon came into remembrance before Yah, to give unto her the cup of the wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath. So it's the same chronological order as Jeremiah 25, 15 through 26, speaking specifically of the exact wine cup of the fierceness of his wrath, which was given out long ago. Not only do they have that wine cup that was given to them by Yah to drink, but they also drink of the cup of Babylon. So all the kingdoms of the earth are little Babylon harlots, daughters of Babylon, right? But they're not Babylon. Babylon is a place, and Babylon has proclamations written against it, and it has prophetic things written about it that are yet to happen. And just because we don't see the land Babylon today right now as like a center hub for this system that's coming, doesn't mean it's not going to be. Because when we go back in Zechariah, we see that this wickedness that's in the Ephah, this is their resemblance throughout all the earth. They all resemble their mother Babylon. They're the daughters, all the kingdoms. They're all daughters of Babylon. But there's one mother, and she'll be saved for last and destroyed before all of them. And this is why they'll all mourn. This is their mother.
Now,
I
this
got a
is kind of out of left park, but has anyone ever heard of, and I'm not saying I necessarily believe in it, I think it's interesting, but of Lilith and that whole thing with like her being the mother of demons? I've just seen it a lot in popular culture that used, and I looked into it, and she was basically, I guess, Adam's first wife. That, again, I'm not, look into it if you'd like, but I just thought it was kind of interesting and how that may kind of tie into, but it could obviously be like metaphorical, like you're saying, like a mother of all nations. But yeah, because it was the same. It's the same thing over and over, like we see through scriptures what the Israelites go through, that up and down, that loving and then waning and loving and waning. it's the same thing with, you know, like the events that happen, and we see that through history with the rise and fall of nations as well. So
Right. Well, real quick, that's well, Adam's first wife being Lilith. That sounds like out of the book of First Garcia, but no, that's just a joke. But I got a quick
That's
question
not
about
funny.
Jeremiah. No, it is funny because I love Zen, and it's just anyway. I got a question about Jeremiah 25. So you're saying these prophecies against Egypt, Edom, Moab, the kings of Zimri, the kings of Elam, the kings of Media. So in your view, North Star, you're saying are those partially fulfilled or are those yet to be fulfilled? The wrath and the judgment against them. Like I'm trying to understand this.
Well, it's clear that he still has a controversy with all the nations as they're still partaking in this cup. They're still drinking it, right? Are they not? So if
Well,
they're still drinking, if they're
I have an
still
answer for
drinking,
that.
okay. So if
Yeah,
they're still
well,
drinking,
I was gonna say the nations outside of Zion at the very end of Revelation chapter 22, they're partaking in all sorts of bad stuff, but they're outside of the spiritual city. So, in my view, it's not a correct premise to say, oh, because these nations are still partaking in wrath means this, you know, this prophecy hasn't been fulfilled. But yeah, I just these are names like who's the king of Zimri, Elam, Media,
so
like
so
are
hey,
these?
not to interrupt you, but we have like 30 minutes left of the show, and you know, this seems really interesting. Maybe we should get you two together and have like a full-on 2 hour, you know, debate style, you know,
I love that.
conversation. But and I enjoyed the conversation up to now, but there are a couple other things that I know that Anthony had that he wanted to share, and I just don't want to use all the rest of the remaining time for this conversation.
Brother, I'll share that at another time, man. I promise I did not mean to start a debate between preterism or not. I didn't mean for that to happen. But
No, I know, and it's
A mere
interesting conversation. It's interesting to hear both of them talk and give their perspectives for sure. I just this isn't you know, like, we're not really here to debate. We are here to talk our different views. I get that, but it is kind of getting into the look at this and change this and what about that. So that being said, I appreciate y'all both for y'all's input, but I was interested in wanting to share this because I think it was really cool. This is Love, Death, and Robots. It's a Netflix series. I haven't seen this, but Anthony brought this up. And I can't play it with sound because, you know, there'll be copyright. But I'm going to show some clips from it. And of course, y'all can kind of go and try to find this video and look at it. But I'll kind of explain what's going on as we watch it. So, actually, Anthony, do you want to look at my screen and kind of talk about what's going on?
I'll try.
Okay, let's try.
But just right quick before you start it, it's just that couple little scenes I'd like to point out.
Okay, so I just shared my screen. Jump in and then kind of talk about it.
All right, I can see it. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
It's paused right now.
Yeah, but I'm going to play it. Here you go. And share it to everyone. All right, go ahead.
All right, well.
So basically, there some stuff's happening. They're getting ready.
Yeah, see that right there? Right there? Does that not resemble a black hole being coming out of the earth? Did that not? I'm looking at ads or something right now, but that right there, does it not look like it's coming out of the earth? Just.
And then you have all these creatures that are, you know, attacking the people.
Well, yeah, the people, and they're going past the livestock. They're going past the gardens and the cows and all that stuff, but they're after the people. See, this is up towards the beginning of it. This is another episode of the same stuff. Look, I don't recommend this to children at all, but I think it's a very good series to check out. This particular episode, though, it's not all that gruesome to me, in my opinion. And I think it's called Suits.
Yeah,
See there.
he was talking earlier about how these creatures are passing up the cornfields and the cows, and they're just going straight for the humans.
Right, and they got these roboton bodies that they're robot bodies that they're in, and they're supposed to fight these things. And here comes the big one, and of course they're able to defeat it. Right now, check this out. No, this came out shortly after. I think it was like 2016 or 17, but they're zooming out. Okay, is that not the firmament with the wrath above it trying to get in? I don't know, just my opinion on that. I know it showed it's on a planet and all that stuff, but we know that doesn't exist.
Yeah, so it's basically one of the, spoilers from the show, or the twists in the show is they're actually not on they're not on Earth with these things attacking. They're on another planet, but it's obvious to see that that firmament, that dome idea. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, but what I'm pointing out is what's getting through it. What's trying to come through it. Is that good or bad? And we can stop sharing that if you like, but I don't know. Maybe what are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. They kind of look like xenomorphs just from Aliens, somewhat. But that big one did. But then the smaller ones kind of look like hellhounds or demonic creatures. Grotesque and ugly. That was pretty interesting. And then obviously the technology to have the mechs, like they obviously want that. The government is spending tons of money into exoskeleton research. Pull up that. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that, but they have these full on things that allow them to wear way more weight. And I'll share a picture really quick. Transition over. Oops, wrong one. So they have these, and this is just a simple, make it easier to walk far distances with lots of weight on you, because it puts all that weight on this structure that's powered and helps you, walk. And so, they want to get to that aspect, and we see that kind of thing over and over in a lot of sci-fi, right? Mechs of some form. So yeah, kind of the merging of man and machine.
That looked like a backpack, and it straps to him and down his leg. Is that and a boot or something?
So no,
Does it look-
that whole thing is piston driven. So like when
Oh.
he's running, it's like working in unison with his running pattern to make all that weight not only on that structure but all his other, like that big gun that I was showing, that is not tied to him, tied down to him, that's tied down to the frame. So
Right. So he puts that on. It's not like it's attached to him.
Yeah, correct. No, it's not like a biomechanical. It is a suit of it's called exoskeleton armor.
Okay.
He gets into.
Yeah,
And
then you
control.
can yeah, and then
Miss-
you can attach the armor weight and all the weight onto the structure instead of the person.
It's not that far fetched. Mr. Tessalonian on YouTube made his own one, like you're speaking of. I mean, it's not as, you know, futurist as what you're talking about, but he made his own suit
Yeah.
like that.
It's just not as refined. I've seen his, yeah.
So yeah, like if they and kind of with the drive in the world to go electric and electric batteries and like just think about like one wheels or what are they called, hoverboards or electric skateboards, like how that wasn't possible a few years ago. So batteries are going to get better and better and better, and that's when they can start doing crazy things like this.
Now, I heard something. This is a conspiracy thing that I have no idea, but they want the Ukraine for its minerals of the stuff that's going to make better batteries, whatever it is.
We don't talk about them conspiracy theories here, though.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's just what they're called by most people.
I know. But supposedly they have something that's there. This is, I haven't found out. if it's
Lithium and
true or not.
nickel. It's lithium and nickel.
Well, something ion. I don't know. But it
Ion
was
is
something
the type
else.
of battery used, but lithium is the mineral that you need to make lithium ion batteries.
Yeah, but we already have those. Or I don't know. They're going to make something else. Yeah, I'm sure it's the lithium, and it's mainly in Ukraine and whatever. But that's a narrative that I haven't looked at, but that I've heard. That's all. I think the whole Ukraine thing. I don't know what the whole
Well,
everything's so chaotic. I try and stay out of
isn't
the
the
news.
Ukraine thing like pretty much over? Like it's not really in the news anymore, is it? Like
I don't know.
I don't know,
I
but
don't
I
know.
know like the Johnny Depp was a thing, and it's supposed to start up again next week, so they're kind of stretching it out. What I'm thinking is, what are they gonna do after Johnny Depp, right? Because
I don't know.
that's only they can only legally go on for so long, and then they're gonna switch the script again.
Yeah, I don't know
You
what
can only
script they're
make-
going to be.
You could only make so much propaganda about how one side's losing when it's not. When it comes blatantly obvious, you sort of got to back down so people forget what you said before. And it's still going on because they just gave Ukraine supposedly $40 billion, supposedly.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear that. Yeah, supposedly. Who knows? It's hard for me to watch the news, and I don't. But you still hear about it. Somebody's going to tell you what's going on, even if you don't turn on the TV.
Or Jubilee stuff.
So,
Awesome.
what
I
were
got
you gonna
I got an update. My guitar is completely restrung. Wherever Daryl went, where did Daryl go?
say? I don't think he likes us anymore.
That his phone died. He's been talking to us since 4 o'clock.
Shout out to Daryl. My strings are done.
Daryl's been a dear brother of mine. I actually met him on Rob Skiba's channel during the virtual house church one afternoon. I thought he was the other Daryl Lee. That's how we met.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. No, I think Daryl's a really nice guy.
So, I kind of had another thing. So, for those who don't know who the Earth brothers are. They're super awesome. I actually haven't. I just learned about them from when Sean had on them, but I've been watching their videos, and I recently watched this one that was actually in my neck of the woods, and it would be cool
Hello,
to kind
everyone.
of it would be kind of fun to do this, but I live really close to here. Wrong one. I really live. This is the Great Salt Lake laser test. Taboo Conspiracies did this. It's a 21 miles no curvature thing, and that's like literally, a 30-minute drive for me to be able to do this, and it'd be really cool to get. And then a friend of mine has a really high powered green green laser, so it'd be fun to do this experiment.
Right quick, welcome back, Daryl. They said your phone might have died.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm back.
Shout out, my strings are done. Hey,
Oh, sweet.
When you change your strings, you ever try using a capo to hold them in?
No, that's a good idea, though, huh?
I came up with that with this Gretsch because it's so hard. The strings get caught all over the place. Sometimes they fall off the little pin. So I started putting a capo on them just to hold them in place so that there's tension on it, and then I just loosen up the top half and then wind them that way. It works pretty quick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Getting pretty quick at restringing the Gretsch.
Cool, man.
Right on. Yeah, that's smart of you.
Yeah, try the capo the next time you change your guitar strings.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
That's an interesting topic too, because if anybody wants to,
yeah, you too, Anthony. Try that.
I was just gonna say, if anybody wants to buy some equipment to do these tests with, I'm gonna sell my cameras and stuff. Somebody wants a P1000 or a P900 or something.
Hey, you still got that drum set?
Yeah, I do.
Are you selling any of your musical equipment, or are you gonna keep that?
This is a show. When did this become eBay?
I know, right?
Beta Bear.
This is a swap shop.
Yeah, but Beta Bear, get in touch with the Founded Earth Brothers. I talk with them about it. And send them some equipment if they need it.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I really like their content. I think that they're also like, not only are they coming, out with, with enclosed cosmology topics, but they're also. Oh, I see Trevor Mishler in the chat. Welcome, brother. It's been a minute, but I hope you're doing well. But they have really good, Torah-based content, and I love his, testimony, how it was very much like me, how coming out of it and kind of events that transpired. So, yeah, I've been enjoying watching their content.
I've seen a few of their shows. I like them pretty good. It's really hard to keep up when you're trying to support everybody's channel and give them the view and the like and all that. It gets a little difficult.
Yeah, no, I get it. And you kind of go, like, I always find myself, like, kind of watching one set and watching a whole bunch of videos, and then moving over to another creator and watching other videos, and then watching, the ones that look interesting when they come up. But yeah, it's awesome though that we get to see all these other puzzle pieces.
Vader, Bill Wool has been asking a couple times tonight where exactly the Yankton, South Dakota meetup is happening this weekend. I don't know if anyone here has any knowledge on that.
I have no idea. Who is that through?
I don't know, but he's been asking about it.
I haven't heard about it either. But yeah, we've got to view and like and share people's videos because we know YouTube ain't gonna hardly do it for us. They're trying to stop it from getting shared. And we see a lot of people's left YouTube, gone over to different channels and stuff. My thing is that's exactly what they want us to do. They just want to scare
Well,
us.
it's not even, some of them's not even their choice. They've just dumped them. You know, it's not always by choice. They just censor them to death and then take down their channel.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to separate the goat from the lamb. If they really enjoy your content, they'll follow you if you start another channel or whatever.
Yeah, and they do. They do it on BitChute or something like that. But if you can find some of the people that have been dumped off of YouTube, they upload to Odyssey, all kinds of places. So they're still trying.
My point is I'm just saying don't just give in to their wannabe authority. Don't just give up so easily.
Yeah, but one thing I will say is I get that it is hard to watch everyone's videos and like everyone's videos, but at least subscribe, guys. It takes no time to hit that button one time, subscribe, hit the post notifications, and then we stream right now. We're streaming once a week, so you're not going to get bombarded with this stuff. With stuff every day. It's going to be one video, a week for now. Again, we're still working on shorts and other content, but for now it's not that hard. And then if you comment and you subscribe, then you're going to get to win a shofar. If you don't have a shofar, then awesome. If you have a shofar and you win, then give it, to someone who doesn't have one. So I just kind of want to bring that up because we are literally 51 way from that goal.
That's close. That's so close.
We're so close, guys. I'd really appreciate it. And those that have platforms to share it, if you'd love to share it, we would really appreciate that to get us that number. And obviously we'll be halfway to the 1,000 mark when we hit that number, but it's definitely something to celebrate. And yeah. So, anyways. Sorry to interrupt, but that kind of was just on my heart to say really quickly.
Good.
So were you like Anthony, you were talking about restarting the Jubilee's Bible study, but maybe changing up the times so that more people could be, that could be there. Did you give that any thought and kind of come to it, or is that something you want to think about and maybe talk about next stream?
Well, I really do want to keep doing it, but the time, and I think it used to start at 7 or something. That's too early for me to get around my phone. I cannot make it that early. Too much going on. Too much
Tuesday.
Yeah, too much daylight left. But yeah, if anybody would like to continue, hopefully where we left off, I can't even remember which chapter, but I'd love to get back into doing that if anybody would be interested in joining. That'd be in the Discord at, like Vader Bear said, Tuesdays, and I guess around 8 would be pretty decent time for me if it's okay with everybody else.
What's your time zone? Central? East?
Central.
What?
Central.
Sweet. Okay. Well, we got like a few minutes left. If anyone has anything in particular that they wanted to bring up before we get off.
I'd like to say congratulations for the wrenches, guys.
Wait, for who getting a wrench?
What?
Like I said, I'm gonna let them tell you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got a wrench.
I don't accept wrenches unless it's a paid position. So thank you.
Man, that was embarrassing though. I messed up with the wrench, hitting the wrong buttons.
Oh, you did. Oh, that's funny. That happens all the time. Like I literally seen inside of Austin Wits It Gets It streams where I remember when that Just Flat Jack literally like had it in his pocket and was talking and was like literally banning all these people. It was pretty funny.
Oh my gosh, I felt so bad. I was like, oh man, that's why I never wanted a wrench. But
I've
you know,
done that. I went to
it
go put
was
someone in
what I
timeout.
was worried about.
I went and
But
put someone in timeout. That scrolls so fast. I caught somebody else, you know, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
yeah, that's what I was scared of. But yeah, I just have to pay close attention and be more careful with the buttons and not get hurt.
Yeah, I texted as soon as it started. I texted Jeremiah and I was like, "Hey man, you got to put the chat on slow mode, man. It's going way too fast." Like I don't think I can do it from my end.
Yeah, because sometimes you can just you got somebody, and then that little three little dot thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I got somebody else. So yeah, it's bad. Yeah, sometimes slow mo. Oh, it should say it, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
On the channel. Yeah, you're in slow mode.
I had got to chat with Jeremiah for a little while. He's a pretty cool dude. I like him. That's the first time I ever got to actually meet him per se.
Sweet. All right. Well, I guess we're getting to that time, so I'll go ahead and do the house cleaning.
Wait a minute.
Real quick. Oh, what's up?
I want to ask your wife or you, has she baked bread with the bread mill and everything yet?
No, she needs to do starter dough, and she's refusing to do it.
Oh,
She doesn't have to
darn.
have starter dough. She can get yeast. You can buy yeast at the store.
Yeah.
You can make flatbread. There's all kinds of recipes for unleavened bread. Unleavened cakes are better than flatbread. Like pancakes. Pancakes don't require yeast, I don't believe.
Right.
Pancakes are awesome, man.
Oh, they just require baking soda, right?
No.
Yeah, I can
yeah,
get Kelly
okay.
to send you a recipe, man. Her pancakes are awesome.
All right, babe, we got to do it tomorrow or Monday.
My
I want
allergies.
to tell you. I want to tell you
Man,
my
that sounds
experience.
so good. Whole grain.
When it comes to this milling your own bread, guys, like I've had allergies my whole life, like horribly. And like the last 10 years, actually more than that, I've refused to take medicine. I mean, I would take Benadryl in the past, but I'd have to take so much to make me completely lethargic. But the only thing I'm doing different is eating freshly milled grain, and man, my allergies are not bothering me. And I only know one person that has worse allergies than me. And I think I'm going to tell him, hey man, my allergies hadn't bothered me this year at all. And the only thing I'm doing different is eating this freshly milled grain. I'm going to get him to try it. And if it fixes his allergies, he takes all kinds of pharmaceuticals for it.
Yeah, and I watched that Sue Baker, Bread Becker's that YouTube channel. And like the problems that she was talking about, I have some of those things. So it's like, I really am excited to do it. I got some wheat grains from a friend, but also have an order from Azure Standard that I'm waiting on. It's supposed to be here the 22nd.
Yeah, I'm waiting on mine, but it already says it's out of stock. So I might get it. You might get your order. You might not. You just
I saw that, and you can switch, but all the other ones aren't bread, so it's like I'm hoping I'll get it, or I guess I'll have to wait.
That's
for that grain.
Yeah, but anyway, I've got I put in my order when they had it, but now they're saying it's not. I might not get it, even though I put it in. It's just the way it works. But on the bread issue, I know it's fantastic tasting. My daughter made a couple different loaves, different recipes, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful she did them by hand. She didn't do it in a bread maker. And but now maybe your wife, maybe Kelly could tell me how I went to go make a sandwich for my husband. Beautiful loaf, cut the slices, and by the time I picked up the sandwich and put it in the bag, the bread started falling apart into pieces. I don't know how to glue it. I wanted to glue it back together.
Hey,
I don't.
no problem. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Shabbat Shalom all. Actually, just Shalom, because it's not Shabbat anymore. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, shalom.
I just feel personally attacked. And it's not that I refuse, I'm just learning how to do it. I'm gathering the recipes and watching the videos so that when I do it, it will be scrumptious and wonderful.
Yeah, you're just scared to do it, but I know you'll do a good job, and I
That
want
is
to eat
not
good
true.
food.
Every journey takes one step to begin.
Our grain hasn't even come in yet. In my defense,
But-
it's not even supposed to be here until the end of the month.
But we were also given like 40 free pounds from a friend that we could use.
It's a little sketchy.
You got wheat berries. You got wheat berries. You ain't got an excuse. Wheat berries in a grinder. You're good to go.
And we have both
Okay,
of those.
tell me why my bread fell apart. Tell me why
I
my
was
bread
told
fell
that if
apart.
you get the yeast packets from the store, then you might as well. It's just like buying bread off the shelf.
No. Wrong.
Yeah,
Well, shoot, then that's just seems like the easiest option.
have you heard
So
about
you're
making
gonna-
a sourdough with the potato?
You're going to
Uh-huh.
use the yeast for different reasons than sourdough. Sourdough is for sourdough. Yeast is for other, like when you need yeast in the recipe, it's for other reasons. The sourdough makes the bread sour. It gives it a specific taste. You're not using the sourdough mother for like necessarily the purpose of making your bread rise. You're using it more for the taste that it gives the bread than the action it does to the bread.
You can make use the sourdough to make it rise, though.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
What was you saying there, Daryl? Coming in.
Well, you can use a potato, or you boil a potato and mash it down, and then you set it outside, uncovered for a little bit. I forget if you got to add some flour to that, I think, or some sugar. There's like a video on YouTube about it.
Well, that's kind of how you make sourdough bread. You just use some flour and water, not a potato, but then you just keep adding, you know.
Yeah,
I don't
and you just
never heard of
set
a
it.
potato.
Yeah, and then you just set it outside uncovered for a little bit, and then you cover it back up and let it sit for. It takes like a day of sitting there to get enough yeast just out of the natural air to
Yeah.
rise up, and then you add that to your bread, to your dough to make bread.
Oh, potato bread.
Yeah, potato bread.
Potato.
Don't knock it till you try it. Sounds
Oh,
pretty.
I like potato bread, but I've never had it made that way. I mean, you know.
Yeah, if you can't, for some reason, if you can't get to the store to get yeast, you can make your own starter that way.
In a day?
Yeah. Yeah, it might. No, you
Actually,
might take one day to make it, and then the next day to make your bread.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because the sourdough, the starter I have, it literally will double in a day, and it's because of I think just the flour is so active and alive that I only need one day for there to
And
be
the right
enough for me to
temperature.
make.
Yeah.
One day in the
And
right
the right-
temperature.
The yeast is all
And
in the whole air. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I let you do when you're making the bread, you do you make your bread, and then you let it rise for 2 hours, and then you knead it some more,
Right.
and then you do the rise, which is like 8 hours to 10 hours. I mean,
How How does
Indeed.
yours work for sandwiches? Does
Well,
it stay together?
this is
Because
not enough for sandwiches.
because boy, my husband's sandwich just
No,
fell apart.
it does. Yeah, and in some of the recipes, it calls for vital wheat gluten,
Yeah.
or there was one other thing, and I'm not gonna get that stuff. So
Can't
I
you?
actually found
Isn't
a
the gluten made from like kneading it, and like the more you knead
No,
it, the more
no, it's
gluten
in
is
the
produced?
no, it's in the berry itself. I always thought it was from kneading it, but you can add gluten.
Well, you can
So
add
that
gluten, but gluten, I swear that the chemical process of kneading it is what creates
No,
the gluten.
no,
Nah, I
no. The
see the
gluten's in the wheat
video.
berry, and the different size gluten molecules depends on what kind of wheat berry you use. So, like people that are highly, if you watch Sue's stuff, and stuff, she explains that like the different berries have different size gluten molecules. So people that are hypersensitive to it, they should try this bread first and then work their way up. Not this bread, this grain first, and work their way up because the gluten's in the wheat berry.
right. If you're for gluten tolerant, you can just go for it right off the top. But I haven't
Yeah.
found a way to keep my sandwiches. I even tried toasting it first, and it still fell in half. So,
I'll send you this one recipe that I have. It's a sourdough recipe, and it's not like for fresh milled grain, but
oh,
so far it's worked the best. No, but I use the fresh milled grain
oh, I see.
for the recipe, and it has worked the best.
Okay, very
So
good.
I'll send that to you.
Good.
And I didn't know this either, but the gluten also depends on how the crop was. Like if it was dry that season, or if there was like more than enough water. Like sun exposure. I had no idea.
Is there a
And
difference between the spring wheat and the whatever summer or fall wheat? Is
winter
there?
and
Okay, yeah. Is there
yeah, I'm
hardier
sure.
or less hardy or what?
I actually do think the winter wheat is hardy, because the first one that we bought was a hard red wheat, and
Yep.
that's hard, because we
Oh,
have a hard white wheat, and that seems to be a little bit softer
yeah.
berry. I don't really. That's
I
all
have
I
some
can.
Anyway,
hard white wheat too, and that's what he's like, oh, you have to learn on this hard white wheat. No, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
just make pancakes. Just make some pancakes or waffles with it.
I'm interested in
Yeah,
all of your
good.
recipes.
There is in Discord those who are not joined would like to join. In the Discord, there's actually like a recipe thing in the wellness for sure though. So if you'd like to share your recipes for those interested in making bread and eating freshly milled grain, that'd be a great place to check out. But we are coming to the end of our time, so there is a couple things I gotta do real quick. So if y'all would bear with me. So first off, as you will see, we are at 449 subscribers. So again, 51 away from that 500 mark. Share it with people. Say, hey, come check this, out. If you have someone that that's interested in something and they'd like to share it, tell them to come talk to us. And join us in the Discord. Start conversations, share videos. It's we're trying to build a community where iron sharpens iron, where as man sharpens man, and that process requires heat and friction and the removal of material. We got to be able to talk about these things that we could disagree with. And the round table isn't always the place to do it, but the Discord definitely is. So check that out. But help us grow, help us get that 500 mark. And with that 500 mark, we have the 500 sub milestone, in which we're going to give away one of these prizes. So of course, you go vote. If you don't want it to be a shofar and you want it to be something else, then get into that and click on it and cast your vote. And then as soon as we hit the 500 milestone, this will be over, and that will be what we will be giving away. And again, the requirements for that is that you're sub to the channel and that you leave one comment at least on one of the videos. And so to talk about that, like always, we read the comments from the last video, which was the procession episode, procession number 4. But we'll go ahead and read the comments. We just got a couple. So this is obviously going to be removed. Sorry about that, everyone. And Moonglow said, thank you. We appreciate that. Even things like that help the channel. So please, everyone watching, everyone on the panel, go leave a comment about something that someone talked about. It helps us get mentioned more, even though we're already slighted in growth because we're a truth community. But it really does help. And then over on Take on the World, let me pull that one up. I thought I already had it, but I guess I didn't. It might be one of those other ones, to be honest, but I have it here. Oh, that's Moonglow's. And here we go. Give me 1 second. Pull all the way down. So this is the correct one. So we got, that's either Jack or Jake. It says, oh my gosh, I was just noticing 444 in the last week. Insane. I just watched the movie Now You See Me. In that movie, they are given, they're all trying to be joined the Eye, which is the secret society of magicians. But anyways, the time on that card that they meet is also 444. So I noticed that after we had talked about that the other day. And then my beautiful mom, she said,
what movie was that again?
Good job, son. It's Now You Can See Me.
Now You See Me.
Is that the one where
Facebook boy, Jesse Eisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the one where he was writing the fake checks?
No.
Was that movie?
No, that's
No.
Blank Check.
No, the one where what's his name? Played in Titanic. The kid.
Leonardo DiCaprio? No.
Yeah.
Getting colder, Franco. Let's keep moving.
My bad.
It's all good. And then Marsha, lovely sister, all I have are excuses that I missed this live. Thankful once again that this is recorded and I can watch later. You guys rock. You rock. Thank you for joining us as always. And then Anthony said, I just want to say I love you all so very much. Even if we don't agree on everything, I still love each of you. Shabbat shalom to you all. Indeed, brother. That's what the C.E.F is all about. So, all right. Well, that's all our comments. So we definitely appreciate those that did comment. And that comment on this video, those that share it so that we can get we can hit that 500 sub and give one of the lucky you 500 or blessed one of you that awesome shofar. So anyways, all right, well, we got quite a bit of people to say goodbye, so let's go through it. We'll start off with my beautiful wife since she's at the top of the screen.
She's not talking to you.
You're in the doghouse. No bread for you, husband. Well, it was really great jumping on here for 5 minutes, and just thanks for hearing my side of things as Vader was picking on me, trying to ruin somebody who couldn't even defend themselves. As always, it was a pleasure fellowshipping with everybody in the live chat, and I can't wait to see you all next week.
Sweet. Thank you for all you do, love, and we'll throw it over to Anthony, dear brother.
Well, just want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with us. And I do want to apologize for interrupting the debate/discussion. However, I knew how long it could be. You're exactly right, North Star. It could go on for weeks. But anyway, I want to apologize for interrupting that. But thank you all for being here, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you. You know, like lively topics are always good, and things, you know, ideas and discussions birth from that. So it's not always a bad thing. So I appreciate the North Star and Nick for talking to each other pleasantly. And but I'll keep on moving down the line. We got Daryl Lee. Glad he jumped in with us and back in with us, and that he's here and he got his shiny wrench over there on the Skiba channel. So, yeah, have a good night, brother.
Oh, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad we had a lot of people here tonight too. That was good. And well, everybody have a good one. And Shabbat Shalom.
Alrighty, and Frankie B, I'm gonna leave you to last to call out the song. So I'll jump over to Chris. I serve the one I am. May not be there, so I'll go ahead and skip over to Marcia, and she can say her goodbyes.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and bless all of you, and hope you all come back and bring others.
Yeah. And we got our dear brother Nick. If you'd like to say your goodbyes.
Yeah, I wanted to real quick. This message was kept secret for centuries and generations past, but now it has been revealed to God's people. For God wanted them to know that the riches and glory of Christ are for you Gentiles too. And this is the secret that lives in you. This gives you assurance of sharing his glory. So whether we, don't agree on every jot and tittle of the prophecies and maybe perhaps where we're at in the covenants, our assurance away from any of us. So, I'm just rejoicing right now, and I really appreciate the show tonight. Love the Jubilees episodes. I appreciate the lively discussion with North Star. I'd love to do it again sometime soon and really flesh some of the stuff out, and just want to wish everyone eternal shalom and eternal Shabbat.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. And we got our dear brother North Star. Thanks for the conversation and joining us. You're more than welcome to always, and that goes out to everyone. But I do appreciate you joining us. If you'd like to say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, it was great hearing everyone and, being allowed to speak. If you guys would like to get into a more in-depth and go through every verse that we were reading earlier about Babylon and the proclamations against the land specifically that haven't happened, we could do that at some point, and that would be great. And we would be speaking of the 42 months also, and the trumpets and vials and different things. And one thing just to, kind of rebuttal what was just said, Acts 3:21, speaking of Messiah specifically, whom heaven must
Mainly into the spirit, because the spirit is what leads you and guides you. It says, if you walk in the spirit, you shall know the truth. So let's just continue to dig deep into the spirit into Christ Yeshua, our Messiah, and our Creator every day, and just dig deep into Him, because He is the answer to every one of our questions. And if you ever ask Him a question, He will surely answer you. I know that by personal conviction. So our music, the name of our band is Born Out of Time. Bozak and Lasco, all originals. So enjoy it, and don't forget to sub and like the video. And we'll see you next week. Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom, shalom, everyone. And have a glorious week in our Creator and our Savior.
Good night, everyone. Here's Dig Deep, Born Out of Time.